All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're stepping past the velvet ropes and straight into the dramatic, high-stakes world of a flagship June Phillips watch auction. We are breaking down a meticulously curated event featuring exactly 157 elite timepieces. We're going to look closely at what makes these tiny ticking machines worth absolute fortunes.
We are looking at a curated catalog where starting bids hover right around $2,000. But the absolute crown jewels, they easily smash past the $1 million mark. Throughout this explainer, we are going to unpack exactly what drives these massive valuations. Why does one piece of metal cost the same as a used car, while another costs the same as a sprawling mansion? Even if you aren't bidding, understanding this market gives you a front-row seat to one of the most fascinating alternative asset classes in the world, where microscopic mechanics are traded just like fine art. Here's how we're breaking it down for our auction preview. First, inside a flagship watch auction. Second, the independent watchmaker boom. Third, FP Journet, modern auction royalty. Fourth, providence and unconventional design. And finally, the premium on pristine condition.
Okay, part 1. Inside a flagship watch auction, setting the stage at Phillips. Moving right along to part 2. The independent watchmaker boom. Supply, demand, and hype.
So for the last 5 years or so, independent makers have been, absolutely on fire. They might not have centuries of legacy like the classic houses, but they are absolutely dominating the auction blocks right now. And the formula for this hype, it's actually pretty strict. It starts with extreme supply limits. Think at most, maybe 1,000 mechanical watches a year, total. Then the aesthetic has to appeal to a wide audience. You need perfect balanced proportions and a highly wearable size. Strictly under 52 millimeters. Because, let's face it, if you make a massive 52mm case filled with crazy complications, it's just way too big for the average wrist, and your market instantly shrinks. But the ultimate catalyst? Validation from established, serious collectors.
As our source material so colorfully puts it, you haven't truly arrived as an indie brand until the top collectors are literally squawking like chickens over your pieces. Seriously, there's a massive difference between selling a watch to a random buyer versus a real established collector known by the auction houses. Once those heavy hitters validate a young, high-quality maker, boom, demand just shoots through the roof.
Which brings us to part 3. FP Journet, modern auction royalty. The pinnacle of the indies. To really understand this, let's look at the T30 Tourbillon. This timeline perfectly captures its incredible journey. FP Journet created his very first pocket watch way back in 1982 or 83. Now, fast forward 30 years to 2013, and he introduces the T30 as an anniversary homage to that exact first piece. Back in the 80s, he couldn't afford gold, so the original was sterling silver and rose gold. So he actually used those exact same materials for the T30 case. On the outside, it looks like this large, beautifully simple watch with Roman numerals. But inside, it's a total wolf in sheep's clothing, hiding a highly complex tourbillon. He only ever made 99 of these, and today, they carry an auction estimate of $600,000 to $1.2 million. Crazy, right? Now, this perfectly illustrates how manufactured scarcity works in the high-end market. Journet created a Tourbillon Souverain Anniversary piece, but get this, he only made 20 examples globally. That is just 5 titanium watches for each of his boutiques in Tokyo, Hong Kong, Boca Raton, and New York. The piece hitting the block here is the Hong Kong serial number 1. Being one of only 5 made for that specific city, barely ever worn, and coming as a complete set, it makes it an absolute mega piece.
There's also this totally fascinating market divide with Journet. You have his classic, highly polished, universally recognized aesthetic. And then you have his early brass era, which was incredibly raw and experimental. There's a super rare early brass subscription piece in this auction, a 2-tone platinum and rose gold case, and it's one of only 5 ever made. Journet was actually trying to make the subdials pure white, but he struggled with it, resulting in this unique silvery color. That so-called flaw, mixed with how it's naturally aged, turns it into a spectacular specimen estimated well in excess of $1 million.
All right, part 4, provenance and unconventional design, legacy and rule breaking.
So what happens when you take extreme rarity and smash it together with celebrity legacy and rule-breaking design? Well, you get a Patek Philippe reference 5404G. This is what the watch world calls a piece unique. That means it's a single, one-of-a-kind custom example that the manufacturer will never, ever duplicate.
This specific one is a perpetual calendar chronograph with split seconds, a stunning salmon dial, and this incredibly oversized crown. That crown alone gives it so much presence you could literally spot it from across a crowded room.
But the design? That's really only half the story here. Its provenance is absolutely bulletproof. This piece unique was custom ordered and sold directly out of the Patek Philippe Geneva salon, explicitly to, drumroll please, the legendary musician Eric Clapton. When you have a literal one-of-a-kind Patek with verified heritage from a musical icon, it stops being just a watch and becomes an undisputed, rapidly appreciating asset. It's estimated up to $1.4 million, and honestly, it is very likely going to break some records.
Unconventional design on its own also acts as a massive value multiplier. Take the 1990s Cartier Crash in platinum. The Crash was this blazing hot, asymmetrical trailblazer, though funnily enough, it was actually pretty unpopular when it first launched back in 1960. By the 1990s, they started making platinum versions, but they are exceptionally rare. We're talking maybe 10 produced in the entire decade, and only about 5 have ever popped up publicly. It's an absolute masterclass in case integration. This specific unpolished example is estimated between $150,000 and $300,000, which could completely reset the market for this model.
Moving to our final section, Part 5, the premium on pristine condition, flawless and untouched.
Let's talk about how a flawless, completely untouched watch entirely changes its financial gravity. In high-end collecting, condition is, well, it's everything. A massive, massive driver of value is finding a watch that is, quote-unquote, unpolished with crisp hallmarks. Basically, this means the watch has never been serviced, never been buffed, never been polished. It retains its exact original factory-stamped edges. Just one simple restoration can dull a hallmark, so when a watch maintains that pure, untouched factory state with zero service marks, auction values get sent straight into the stratosphere.
Consider this incredible Patek Philippe reference 1518 in 18-karat rose gold. The 1518 is basically the brand's ultimate icon. It's essentially the Patek equivalent of a Porsche 911. Less than 50 of these were ever made in rose gold between 1941 and the early 50s. And this specific watch? It is the single best preserved case the auction house has ever seen. We're talking virtually zero scratches, perfectly crisp hallmarks, original faceted pushers, and even the gold spring bars are untouched. Because it is so insanely well preserved, bidding starts at $1.2 million with estimates rocketing up to $2.4 million.
You see the exact same thing with vintage Rolex. Compare your standard vintage wear, scratched bezels, polished cases, replaced parts, to this Rolex Paul Newman Daytona. This is the legendary John Player Special, inspired by the black and gold 1970s Lotus Formula One cars, and it is flawless. What's absolutely wild is the 14-karat gold case. Rolex actually used 14-karat gold just for the US market to make it cheaper to import back in the day. This one has an unpolished case, the original black acrylic bezel, and a totally blemish-free dial. It literally looks like it was just unboxed yesterday. That perfection makes it the ultimate desirable Rolex, carrying an estimate up to $1.4 million. Of course, acquiring one of these masterpieces is really only step one. Practically speaking, if you're walking down the street wearing a literal million-dollar asset on your wrist, you have got to protect it. Serious collectors follow a pretty seamless process here. Win the auction, secure an authenticated appraisal, and then lock down specialized insurance. Platforms like WonderCare effortlessly handle this, offering up to 150% payout on total loss, worldwide all-risk coverage, and total discretion, so collectors can just wear their grails with complete peace of mind.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a thought. We've just unpacked exactly what drives these insane million-dollar valuations, from extreme scarcity and bulletproof provenance to completely untouched, unpolished factory conditions. If you were sitting in that Phillips auction room right now, paddle in hand, with a few million to spare, where are you putting your money? Are you investing in the pristine, flawless, centuries-old legacy of a Patek Philippe? Or are you chasing the rising, explosive fire of an independent genius like F.P. Journe?